This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. Americans gave about $290 billion to charity last year. That was $10 billion more than the amount of charitable giving in 2009. The estimates are from the Giving USA Foundation and its research partner, the Center on Philanthropy at Indiana University. Charities are nonprofit organizations that raise money to provide social services or other programs. Giving USA has been reporting on charitable donations since 1956. The group estimates that about 75 million households gave to at least one charitable organization in the United States last year. A household is one or more people living in a home. The largest share of charitable giving goes to religious groups. Giving USA says they received 35% of all donations in 2010. Some people give a percentage of their pay to religious organizations. Schools and other education-related organizations were second on the list. They received an estimated 14% of all charitable giving last year. The federal tax agency, the Internal Revenue Service, recognizes donations to official charities. Those who give to charity may be able to get tax breaks and reduce the amount of taxes they owe. People who give to charity may want to know how their donations are being spent. Organizations like Charity Navigator and the American Institute of Philanthropy look at how charities spend the money they receive. Their reports and ratings offer a measure of how effectively the charities use their money. For example, donors can learn how much a group spends on services compared to how much it spends on itself in administrative costs. Charity Navigator recently asked donors and charities to answer questions about year-end giving trends this year. More than 500 donors and 100 charities completed the questionnaire. On average, these charities said they received 41% of all their donations in the last few weeks of the year. Charity Navigator also asked donors about the kinds of charities they would likely support this holiday season. Human Services rated at the top of the list. Arts, Culture, and Humanities rated at the bottom. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. Read, listen, and learn with our programs and English teaching activities at voaspecialenglish.com and on the VOA Learning English page on Facebook. This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. Pressure for financial reform has been building in Europe. In June, the financial services company Moody's Investors Service reduced Spain's credit rating. The rating was cut from A3 to Baa3. That means that Moody's officials believe the credit risk of Spanish debt has moved from very low to moderate. The company said it acted because Spain is borrowing about $125 billion in rescue loans for its banks. Debt markets punished Spain by pushing up the interest rate on its long-term debt to about 6.8%. That increases Spain's borrowing costs and hurts its already troubled economy. Spain was not the only country to get downgraded by Moody's. Cyprus got the same treatment. Recently, American Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner spoke at the Council on Foreign Relations in Washington. He said the increase in borrowing costs for European countries like Spain means European officials must move quickly to avoid growing costs. In his words, if you wait to move in these things and you let the market get ahead of you, then you increase the costs of the solution and you make it harder to get there. Once you decide, he said, there is no argument for doing it slowly. Germany, Europe's largest economy, has been pushing for economic reform in the 17 countries using the euro. But German Chancellor Angela Merkel has argued that her country is unwilling to put money at risk unless banking reform is enacted throughout the Eurozone. She warned that Germany's economic power was not unlimited. In early June, the European Commission proposed steps toward a common banking policy. The proposals include empowering nations to intervene when their banks are in trouble. But proposed changes may also bar support for failing banks. Some European leaders are pressing for an expanded European bailout fund. Germany has resisted providing new financial resources, but details of any deal with big European economies have yet to be decided. Europe's financial crisis is likely to be a major international issue in the weeks to come. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. You can read, listen, and learn English with more stories about economics and other subjects at voaspecialenglish.com.
This is the VOA Special English Education Report. Teachers and parents usually call attention to the pictures when they read storybooks to preschool children. But a new study suggests that calling attention to the words and letters on the page may lead to better readers. The 2-year study compared children who were read to this way in class with children who were not. Those whose teachers most often discussed the print showed clearly higher skills in reading, spelling, and understanding. These results were found 1 year and even 2 years later. Shane Piasta, an assistant professor of teaching and learning at Ohio State University, was an author of the study. She says most preschool teachers would find this method manageable and would need only a small change in the way they teach. They already read storybooks in class. The only difference would be increased attention to the printed text. Ms. Piasta says if you get children to pay attention to letters and words, it makes sense that they will do better at word recognition and spelling. But she says research suggests that very few parents and teachers do this in a systematic way. The report appears in the journal Child Development. More than 300 children aged 4 and 5 were observed in classrooms in Ohio and Virginia. The children came from poor families and were below average in their language skills. This put them at risk for reading problems later. For 30 weeks, the children took part in a program called Project STAR, for Sit Together and Read. The project is based at Ohio State. It tests the short-term and long-term results of reading regularly to preschool children in their classrooms. Laura Justice at Ohio State says researchers think they understand how information about print is transmitted from the adult to the child. This knowledge can be gained by having focused discussions when reading a book out loud. Professor Justice says this intervention can help adults center in on the things that children need and want to learn. There are different ways that adults can talk to children about print. They can point to a letter and discuss it, and even trace the shape with a finger. They can point out a word. This is dog. They can discuss the meaning of the print or how the words tell the story. And they can talk about the organization of the print. For instance, showing how words are written left to right in English. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. You can read and listen to our programs at voaspecialenglish.com.
This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. Today, retirement can mean different things. For many Americans, it means the end of the money-earning part of their life and the beginning of a period of enjoyment. But retirement calls for planning and savings. In many countries, employers may offer some kind of retirement savings plan. The plan could be linked to the company's stock or to a managed investment service. Almost any financial planner will say workers should use these plans to save money easily, often directly from their wages. But an employer plan should not be your only way to save for retirement. Pete DeRuta heads his own financial planning company and gives retirement advice on radio shows and television. He tells people to save whenever possible. But he says as retirement nears, you must take fewer financial risks. There's 3 stages of life there when we look at it. There's the part where you're earning money. And when you're earning money, if you have a salary, it makes it easier to take risk because you know that if you lose the money, you can go back and earn some more. By risks, Pete DeRuta means investing in stocks and other financial instruments that can lose value quickly. He says people should move money away from riskier investments as they age, even if there is a possibility of a higher rate of return. Instead, investors nearing retirement should seek more secure investments for their savings. But then we get to the transition phase, when we're within 5 years or so of retirement. I call it the financial red zone, because now is the time when you need to protect what you have. You need to start transitioning away from the risk of Wall Street and into safe places that guarantee lifetime income. Pete DeRuta has a simple way of deciding how much of your retirement savings should be at risk. He says, take your age and put a percentage after it. That is the percentage of your retirement savings that should be fully protected from losing value. So, for a 65-year-old, 65% of the money must be in a place that can't lose it. The reason why is when you're in retirement, it's impossible to get the money back that you lost because you don't have a salary coming in. One recent survey by the Charles Schwab Company found that 44% of baby boomers feel secure in their readiness for retirement. Baby boomers are the generation of Americans born after World War II. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. Today, retirement can mean different things. For many Americans, it means the end of the money-earning part of their life and the beginning of a period of enjoyment. But retirement calls for planning and savings. In many countries, employers may offer some kind of retirement savings plan. The plan could be linked to the company's stock or to a managed investment service. Almost any financial planner will say workers should use these plans to save money easily, often directly from their wages. But an employer plan should not be your only way to save for retirement. Pete DeRuta heads his own financial planning company and gives retirement advice on radio shows and television. He tells people to save whenever possible. But he says as retirement nears, you must take fewer financial risks. There's 3 stages of life there when we look at it. There's the part where you're earning money. And when you're earning money, if you have a salary, it makes it easier to take risk because you know that if you lose the money, you can go back and earn some more. By risks, Pete DeRuta means investing in stocks and other financial instruments that can lose value quickly. He says people should move money away from riskier investments as they age, even if there is a possibility of a higher rate of return. Instead, investors nearing retirement should seek more secure investments for their savings. But then we get to the transition phase, when we're within 5 years or so of retirement. I call it the financial red zone, because now is the time when you need to protect what you have. You need to start transitioning away from the risk of Wall Street and into safe places that guarantee lifetime income. Pete DeRuta has a simple way of deciding how much of your retirement savings should be at risk. He says, take your age and put a percentage after it. That is the percentage of your retirement savings that should be fully protected from losing value. So, for a 65-year-old, 65% of the money must be in a place that can't lose it. The reason why is when you're in retirement, it's impossible to get the money back that you lost because you don't have a salary coming in. One recent survey by the Charles Schwab Company found that 44% of baby boomers feel secure in their readiness for retirement. Baby boomers are the generation of Americans born after World War II. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
This is the VOA Special English Technology Report. Call it medicine on a microchip. Researchers in the United States have developed the first wirelessly controlled device that can supply a drug directly into the body. A small chip is implanted under the skin. It contains the medicine, which it releases at preset times. The developers say the device could improve the lives of millions of people who take medicine for long-term illnesses. A company called Microchips began developing the device about 15 years ago. In February, the company released the results of its first successful tests in humans. The test took place in Denmark with 7 women with osteoporosis. Osteoporosis causes bones to become weak and break easily. The disorder is common among older people, especially women. Many patients have to give themselves daily injections of medicine. One type of treatment requires injections for 2 years. Robert Farah is the president of Microchips. He says many patients stop taking the medicine because of the pain and stress of the injections. As a result, only 25% of the patients will go through the entire 24 months of treatment. The microchip is a few centimeters long. It has small sections that each hold a single dose of medicine. Mr. Farah says the device has to be programmed with the times to release the drug. For osteoporosis, the physician will program the device, and the device has the ability to release a dose at a given time, every single day. For other diseases where the physician may want to alter the dosing schedule, they will have the ability to wirelessly reprogram that dosing schedule. He says doctors will be able to reprogram the device from a computer or even a cell phone. The 7 women in the study were ages 65 to 70. The researchers say the implants were just as effective as daily injections. And they say the dosage amounts were more exact than patients often give themselves. The microchips in the study held only 20 doses of medicine. Mr. Farah says it could take 4 years to design and test a version with the ability to hold a year's worth of medicine. He says the microchip may one day free patients from having to remember to take their medicine or give themselves injections. It may also be useful in treating other chronic diseases, including heart disease and multiple sclerosis. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Prasuti. This is the VOA Special English Technology Report. A talking kitchen teaches students how to cook French and speak French. Researchers at the Newcastle University in Britain have developed the French Digital Kitchen. Professors Paul Seedhouse and Patrick Oliver led the project. Professor Seedhouse says it works like a satellite navigation system in a car. The sat-nav speaks to you, and it tells you, for example, to turn left. And if you turn left, then it continues with the program. If, for example, you turn right, then it's a mistake. So it loops back and gives you further instructions. The kitchen equipment and tools use motion sensor technology, similar to the Nintendo Wii game system. The sensors help a computer guide the students through instructions in French. The system can tell whether you've done what you were asked to do or not. So let's say, for example, the system tells you to take some butter and cut it with a knife. The sensor in the knife not only knows that the knife is moving, but it also knows what motion the knife is making. Students can ask the computer to repeat the instructions or translate them into English. There are vocabulary lessons before and after the cooking. Professor Seedhouse became interested in the idea after he visited a talking kitchen designed for a different purpose. It was actually for communicating with people who suffer from dementia. It can tell them, for example, that they've left the oven on. He says the French digital kitchen turns the process of learning language into a real-life experience. But the idea, known as task-based language learning, required a few changes as the researchers were designing the system. For example, if they had a sink full of water, as soon as people finished cooking with an instrument, they would throw it into the water. And for us, that's deadly, because the digital sensors were immediately ruined. The system could be available for sale by the end of 2012. Adding the technology to a new kitchen could add an estimated 10 to 20% to the building costs. The system could also be added to an existing kitchen. The researchers are also developing portable versions, and the European Union has given them money to begin programs in 6 other languages, including English, Italian, and Spanish. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Persutti. You can find links to videos about the Talking Kitchen at voaspecialenglish.com.
This is the VOA Special English Agriculture Report. Organic farming avoids the use of chemical pesticides and man-made fertilizers. Supporters say organic farming is better for the environment than other methods. But studies have shown that organic farming often produces less food per hectare. That lower yield means feeding the world organically would require more land. But good farmland is limited, and scientists say deforestation from the clearing of land for agriculture is already a problem for climate change. In a new study, researchers wanted to measure the difference between conventional and organic yields. So they combined the results of 66 earlier studies. They found that some organic farms can yield almost as much as conventional farms, but most cannot. The findings were reported in the journal Nature. The study's lead author was Verena Seifert of McGill University in Canada. She says conventional farms usually have higher yields than organic ones. But some activities, environmental conditions, and even crops can narrow the differences. On average, organic farms produced 25% less compared to conventional farms. But yields of organic fruits and other perennial crops nearly equaled the yields from conventional ones. So did the yields of legumes such as soybeans. Legumes produce some of their own nitrogen fertilizer. However, organic vegetables and cereal crops had a lot lower yields compared to conventionally grown crops. Ms. Seifert says the soil on organic farms holds water better, and that can reduce the yield difference. Also, organic farmers can improve their yields by making sure crops get enough fertilizer. But increasing the nitrogen is harder to do organically using just animal waste and crop rotations. Organic farmers rotate food crops with plants that fertilize the soil. But while these cover or fertilizer crops are growing, food crops have to be grown on other land. And if farmers use manure, they have to feed the animals that produce it. And that requires grazing land or cropland. The United Nations says world demand for food will grow 70% by the middle of the century. John Reganold is a scientist at Washington State University. He says no one should dismiss organic agriculture as part of the solution. He says farming is increasingly a mix of organic and conventional methods. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. The best example of something is often called the gold standard. It sets the standard against which other things are measured. In economics, the term describes how major trading nations once used gold to set currency values and exchange rates. Many nations continued to use the gold standard until the last century. In the United States, people could exchange paper money for gold from the 1870s until 1933. Then President Richard Nixon finally disconnected the dollar from the value of gold in 1971. From time to time, some politicians call for a return to the gold standard. But in 1978, the International Monetary Fund ended an official gold price. The IMF also ended the required use of gold in transactions with its member countries. Since that time, gold prices have grown. But the growth was uneven. Prices, uncorrected for inflation, continue near record highs. Gold is trading above $1,600 an ounce. An ounce is about 28 grams. But people keep buying. Some people are called gold bugs. These are investors who say people should buy gold to protect against inflation. People have valued gold for thousands of years. The soft, dense metal polishes to a bright yellow shine and resists most chemical reactions. It makes a good material for money, political power, and more recently, electrical power. If you own a device like a mobile phone or a computer, you might own a little gold in the wiring. The gold standard was the subject of one of the best-known speeches in American political history. It took place at the 1896 Democratic National Convention in Chicago. William Jennings Bryan wanted the country to use both gold and silver as money. The idea was to devalue the dollar and make it easier for farmers to pay their debts. Bryan made this famous statement: You shall not press down upon the brow of labor this crown of thorns. You shall not crucify mankind upon a cross of gold. The speech made William Jennings Bryan famous. He was a presidential candidate 3 times, but he never won. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. For more news and information for people learning English, go to voaspecialenglish.com. You can find transcripts, MP3s, podcasts, and activities. You can also follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and iTunes at VOA Learning English.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Health Report. Do people get happier with age? If you said yes, then you were right. A recent study found that people generally become happier and worry less after the age of 50. A team at Stony Brook University in New York asked people between the ages of 18 and 85 about their happiness. The researchers found that levels of stress were highest in adults between the ages of 22 and 25. Stress levels dropped sharply after people reached their 50s. Happiness was highest among the youngest adults and those in their early 70s. But those least likely to report feeling negative emotions were the oldest ones. The study also found that men and women have similar emotional patterns as they grow older. But women of all ages reported more sadness, stress, and worry than men. The researchers also considered possible influences, like having young children, being unemployed, or being single. But they found that these situations did not affect the levels of happiness and well-being related to age. So why would happiness increase with age? One theory is that as people get older, they become more thankful for what they have and have better control of their emotions. They also spend less time thinking about bad experiences. Happiness is not the only thing that seems to improve with age. Another study found that people in their 80s reported the fewest problems with their sleep. Researchers had expected to confirm the popular belief that sleep problems are connected to aging. The survey found an increase in sleep problems during middle age, especially in women. But overall, people reported that they felt their sleep quality improved with age. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. How much does a college education cost? In the United States, the College Board releases yearly reports on prices at colleges and universities. The group bases its findings on published tuition and fees, meaning the prices officially listed by the school. Students might pay less, for instance, if they receive scholarships. Nationally, tuition and fees at public 4-year colleges and universities rose more than 8% during the academic year that just ended. The increase was 7% if you exclude California. California has about 10% of the nation's full-time students in public 4-year colleges. In-state tuition and fees averaged more than $8,000 nationally, The average total charge, which includes housing and meals, was $17,000. The total charge for students from out of state was $30,000. Tuition and fees increased 4.5% at private nonprofit four-year schools. That was still higher than the inflation rate. The average was $28,500. For-profit schools charged an estimated $14,000 in tuition and fees. That was up 3.2% from the year before. One way for parents in the United States to start saving for college when their child is still very young is called a 529 plan. The plans are named for the part of the federal tax law that created them in 1996. All 50 states and the District of Columbia offer them. Private investment companies operate most of these plans, and each state has its own rules. Many plans are open to families from other states. 529 plans offer different investment choices. Families must decide how aggressively they want to put money into stocks, bonds, or other investments that can rise or fall in value. There are limits on how much families can put into 529 plans. Another choice is called a prepaid tuition plan. Parents can pay for an education at a public college or university in their state while their child is still growing up. But what if the child decides to go to school out of state, or not at all? The money can go to educate another family member, or the parents can withdraw it and pay taxes on the gains. There are other ways to save for college while also saving on taxes. One way is to put money for a child into what is called a custodial account until the child becomes an adult. For VOA Special English, I'm Mario Ritter.
Okay, I'm called from Austria, from Afghanistan.
Okay, and what's your name? If you can give us your name.
Yeah, my name is Masood.
Great, thank you for calling, Masood. Do you have any questions for us in regards to learning English or practicing your English?
Because from learning to practice in English. Question.
No.
Okay, I have one question.
Yes?
How can I learn easy English?
Because that's $1 million question.
Yeah, easy.
It's not easy.
From internet. No, I know it's not easy. Language is not easy, but what's the way that I learn easy?
Well,
normal, not so.
It helps that you are practicing like this right now. The more you practice with people, the better you will get.
Yeah, it's better if I talk with people. My Austrian language is also not English, but I learn English in Afghanistan. I think my English is not better. If I some a mistake, I'm sorry, but
you're doing very good job, and you're speaking very well.
Yes, you are.
Thank you very much, but I think my speaking is not good. Just I solved my problem.
Well, helping, like practicing with individuals who speak English is always helpful. I know speaking and reading and writing is completely different, but when I was learning English as a child, it really helped me to read a lot. I read a lot of books.
It does help. Mm-hmm.
Simple books, children's book. It didn't have to be anything big or very, had a lot of words. It was simple children's book I would read all the time, and it really helped me with my English. And I know with others, it has helped them a lot as well.
Yeah, reading helps a lot with vocabulary.
Yeah,
and then you can try it out in conversation.
Yeah, thank you very much. My brother is also in America. If I talk with my brother, he said to me, talk in English. I want to test your English.
Well, that's
If I talk,
perfect.
yeah,
That is
if I
perfect.
talk with my brother, he say your English is like not perfect, not very good, just normal. You can solve your problem. I say you live in America, I live in Austria. It's
Yeah.
different.
No, but definitely take the opportunity to practice with him all the time, as much as you can. Even if you think it's not perfect, just speaking helps a lot.
Yes, I
Yeah.
agree.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very
And also we have, I'll send you the link in inbox. We have our Learning English department here at Voice of America who provide a lot of good materials to practice.
Absolutely.
So you can go on that website and learn more and get more materials.
We're just talking to people about how they learn English and how they practice English.
Well, well, we live in London. Now we are going to college. Our English is quite better, quite good. And
How long have you guys been living in London?
we're here for 4 years, I think.
4 years? Okay. And what do you guys study?
Oh, well, I'm studying science, and he's studying English.
Okay. And what are you hoping to do with that? With science? What do you want to do with that in the future?
Well, I have planned to study biomedical science. You know biomedical science.
So how you said you're studying science, and so you already know English quite well. Is that right?
Yeah, my English is quite well.
Yeah. And your friend? You said he's studying English?
Yeah,
No, I just study IT course, but just I finished improving my English now. So next year I'm going to study IT course.
Okay, great. And how do you practice English? Do you practice English with your friend or with people you meet?
Because I went to school, so I've been in school for 1 year. So after that, they put me in college because I finished my school year 11. So now I'm going to college for the moment. So I finished my entry 3.
Great.
Now I'm going to college. They said to me you have to do level 1 IT course. So I choose my level 1 IT course. So I'm going to do that for 2 years now.
Oh, that's great. Were you studying any English in Afghanistan at all?
Never.
Never?
Yeah, but he did.
You did?
I did, but not a lot. I did just, just in Afghanistan, there is one subject, English, in all the school. There's maybe there's 12 subjects, one subject is English. That's not good enough to learn English.
How do you study your English? Where did you learn your English?
I just learned my English in school and also in Azraq English Language Institute.
Great. When did you start learning it? How many years have you been studying?
If you're asking the real question, so I started my English in Taliban regime when I was in third class of school. So I was in Paktia province, I was learning there. So after that I was learning something in school and also in Azraq Institute.
Yeah, and how do you practice your English?
I don't have any practice now, just I'm working with foreign people, so this is the cause that my English is going to be proceed, and I'm promoting my English by speaking with them, and they are asking questions from me, and I'm responding to them. This is why that sometimes I'm not good English.
My name is Alam Khan. I'm basically from Afghanistan, from the Ghazni province, but right now I'm living in the United States since last 6 months. So I would like to say a warm hello to both of you, especially to your dear guest. Hi, Maria.
Hi. Thanks for calling.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
You too.
Nice
And
to meet you.
what state are you calling us from?
I'm living in Virginia, so I'm calling you from Virginia.
Oh, wow. You're really close to us right here.
Yes, about 20 miles.
That's right. Well, what are you doing now?
I don't have any job here, but today I called you to ask some questions from Miss Maria because I'm trying to learn it and I'm trying to improve my English.
Okay, no
My
problem.
English is so weak, so I didn't attend any classes in my country and not here. I think I am not allowed to attend any class, But in my country, I don't attend any class. Here, I am trying to learn some things from internet, especially to follow some websites. So that is why I called you today to ask you if is it possible to give me some website address to improve my English, to study more, to know about movies, public speech, and something else like that.
There's so much. There's so much. But VOA has a lot of material if you've looked on their website. And also there's another one that's called americanenglish.state.gov. There's so many resources.
Thank you for calling us on Talk to Us Afghanistan with Nargis and Maria.
Hi.
Yeah, good.
And what part of Afghanistan are you calling us from?
From Kabul.
From Kabul.
Capital of Afghanistan.
Great. And do you have any questions for us that we may help answer you today?
No, I don't have any question, but I want to tell you I'm very happy to contact viewers. This is the only achievement for me to call it to yours.
Oh, well, thank you for calling us. And what, if I may ask, what do you do in Afghanistan? Do you go to school or do you go to work?
Yes, I work with a private organization here in Afghanistan, in Logar province, for the post of monitoring and evaluation officer in Logar and Wardak provinces.
I see you're speaking English pretty well. How do you practice?
But I'm good in the English talking, but sometimes I have some problem in talking.
Oh no! Well, you're speaking. You're doing a very good job. You're doing very well. How do you practice your English? Like, how did you learn English, and how do you, on a daily basis, practice it?
I don't study any course of English, but the only I learn from my parents in the office.
Wow,
that's great. So tell us how you practice your English.
Yes, I practice my English with a teacher. It's called Paul. He is living in America, and I study my English and I practice my English via internet.
Oh, that's great. It's
yeah,
perfect.
that's a great source to use. And I know a lot of people don't know about it, but that's there's a lot of things you can do through the internet to practice and learn English.
Yes, the website is Learn Real American English and Learn Real English. This is two websites that every day I practice my English.
Oh, that's great.
Via this website.
So are you only learning English, or in Austria are you speaking?
Yes, Austria, but unfortunately we haven't had Dutch course. In this case, I did not learn in a Dutch course in a Deutsch up to now, but I can speak Dutch, but not too much, a little.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Health Report. A new study has found evidence of aggressive behavior in children who drink 4 or more servings of soft drinks every day. Information for the study came from the mothers of 3,000 5-year-olds. Researchers asked the women to keep a record of how many servings of soft drinks their children drank over a 2-month period. The women also were asked to complete a checklist of their children's behavior. The researchers found that 43% of the boys and girls drank at least 1 daily serving of soda. 4% of the youngsters had 4 or more sodas to drink every day. Shakira Sulia is with Columbia University's Mailman School of Public Health in New York City. She worked on the study with researchers from the University of Vermont and Harvard University School of Public Health. She says they found that children who drank the most soda were more than 2 times as likely as those who drank no soda to show signs of aggression. The aggressive behaviors included destroying possessions belonging to others, taking part in fights, and physically attacking people. Dr. Sulia says the researchers identified the link after they considered socio-demographic factors, like the child's age and sex. They also considered other possible influences, such as whether the boys and girls were eating sweets or given fruit drinks on a normal day. In addition, the researchers examined parenting styles and social conditions at home. Dr. Salia says it is not clear why young children who drink a lot of soda have behavior problems. But she says the ingredient caffeine could cause children to be more aggressive. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Prasuti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. China's Tianhe-2 supercomputer has been rated #1 on the top 500, a list of the world's most powerful computers. Experts measured the supercomputer's performance at 33.86 petaflops, or quadrillions of operations per second. China's National University of Defense Technology developed the supercomputer, which runs twice as fast as the #2 rated Titan supercomputer. That machine belongs to the U.S. government's Oak Ridge National Laboratory in the southern state of Tennessee. Tianhe-2 and Titan are part of the race to make supercomputers faster and more powerful. So, what is a supercomputer? A basic personal computer has one microchip at the center of its operations. This central processing unit, or CPU, carries out a set of commands as part of a pre-designed program. The first supercomputers had a few more CPUs. The number grew as microprocessors became cheaper and faster. Andrew Grimshaw is a computer science professor at the University of Virginia. He says many supercomputers today are called parallel machines. Instead of one CPU, they have thousands. These parallel machines are made up of many individual computers called nodes. They are positioned in one block. They use a lot of power, create a lot of heat, and require huge cooling systems. They also use programs different from the ones used by ordinary computers. Professor Grimshaw says anyone with enough resources can build a supercomputer to solve problems that require millions of mathematical calculations. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Prasuti. This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. Businesses are structured in different ways to meet different needs. The simplest form of business is called an individual or sole proprietorship. The proprietor owns all of the property of the business and is responsible for everything. For legal purposes, with this kind of business, the owner and the company are the same. This means the proprietor gets to keep all of the profits of the business, but must also pay any debts. Another kind of business is the partnership. Two or more people go into business together. An agreement is usually needed to decide how much of the partnership each person controls. One kind of partnership is called a limited liability partnership. These have full partners and limited partners. Limited partners may not share as much in the profits, but they also have less responsibility for the business. Doctors, lawyers, and accountants often form partnerships to share their risks and profits. A husband and wife can form a business partnership together. Partnerships exist only for as long as the owners remain alive. The same is true of individual proprietorships. But corporations are designed to have an unlimited lifetime. A corporation is the most complex kind of business organization. Corporations can sell stock as a way to raise money. Stock represents shares of ownership in a company. Investors who buy stock can trade their shares or keep them as long as the company is in business. A company might use some of its earnings to pay dividends as a reward to shareholders. Or the company might reinvest the money back into the business. If shares lose value, investors can lose all of the money they paid for their stock. But shareholders are not responsible for the debts of the corporation. A corporation is recognized as an entity, its own legal being, separate from its owners. A board of directors controls corporate policies. The directors appoint top company officers. The directors might or might not hold shares in the corporation. Corporations can have a few major shareholders, or ownership can be spread among the general public. But not all corporations are traditional businesses that sell stock. Some nonprofit groups are also organized as corporations. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Persutti. You can learn more about business and economics and learn English at the same time at voaspecialenglish.com. We're also on Facebook and Twitter at VOA Learning English.
This is the VOA Special English Health Report. The journal Science chose an AIDS study as the 2011 breakthrough of the year. The study found that antiretroviral drugs can greatly lower the risk of spreading HIV, the virus that causes AIDS. It showed that infected people with early treatment were 96% less likely to infect their partners. The study was a clinical trial known as HPTN-052. Myron Cohen led an international team that began the study in 2007. But Dr. Cohen says the work really began 20 years ago. We had a strong suspicion, based on all the biological studies we had done, that when we treat people, and lower the concentration of HIV in the blood and secretions, we were rendering them less contagious. But we didn't understand the magnitude of the benefit. Dr. Cohen heads the Institute for Global Health and Infectious Diseases at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. The National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases paid for the study. It involved heterosexual couples in 9 countries in Africa, Asia, and the Americas. The results have already had an effect on government policies. Those changes include treating HIV-infected people when their immune systems are still relatively healthy. Dr. Cohen says the study has generated policy changes at the level of the United States and the World Health Organization and UNAIDS. And it's inspired new community-based clinical trials that are just about to be launched that apply the scientific discovery. He says the results will be wasted unless they are linked to other areas of HIV testing, treatment, and prevention. If we don't know who's positive and negative, there's no benefit. If people aren't linked to care, there's no benefit. If they aren't provided drugs, there's no benefit. If they receive the drugs but don't take the pills, there's no benefit. So this cascade is now the focus of our attention. AIDS activist Mitchell Warren says, "For many years, debates have waged whether we should do treatment or prevention. The results of the HPTN 052 study actually affirm once and for all that treatment is prevention." The journal Science also recognized 9 other achievements. These include progress on a malaria vaccine and research on the DNA of our ancient ancestors. Another study looked at cells that have stopped dividing. It found that clearing them from the bodies of mice can delay some of the effects of aging. A link to the full list is at voaspecialenglish.com. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. A United Nations agency estimates that 516 million of the world's women cannot read and write. The UN Education, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, says programs are needed to help illiterate women learn, although they are past school age. Women make up 2/3 of all illiterate adults. The majority of these women live in West Africa. Many girls in that area never go to school. But in Liberia, a new education program is giving women in their 30s, 40s, and 50s another chance to learn to read and write. Pauline Rose heads UNESCO's worldwide monitoring report on education for all. She says being illiterate causes huge problems in daily life. She notes situations like not being able to read directions on a medicine bottle or the number on a bus. Ms. Rose says illiteracy affects not only the women, but also their families, because women are often the main caregivers of children. She says when women are illiterate, they are less likely to use health services. Some countries, like Senegal, have improved women's literacy rates through government efforts. They tell more girls in primary school and community programs about the importance of education. But there are still many nations where less than 1 in 4 women can read and write. They include Niger, Benin, Mali, and Burkina Faso. Ms. Rose says these countries need literacy programs that target women. Liberia, for example, has launched a Second Chance literacy campaign to teach women. Liberia's Ministry of Education says 5,000 women currently study in adult literacy programs across the country. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. Many sports competitions use cameras to help officials make the right call. Now, goal line technology is being used in international soccer. The move to goal line technology follows international pressure on football's governing body, FIFA, after a missed call in the 2010 World Cup. Video replays of a game clearly showed that England's Frank Lampard had scored a goal against Germany. However, that goal was denied because neither the referee nor the linesman saw the ball cross the goal line. The incident caused such an outcry that FIFA approved the development of goal line technology. That technology was used at the Confederations Cup in Brazil in June. Bjorn Linder is the chairman of Goal Control, the German-based company that won the goal line technology contract for this year's Confederations Cup. His team spent weeks in Brazil before the games as part of the FIFA certification process. He says the system has 14 cameras connected to a computer. Computers track the path of the ball in real time and reconstruct the play. The system sends a signal to the referees through their watches when it finds that the ball has crossed the goal line. Electronic eyes on the goal line may settle arguments, but the data is still only a reconstruction of reality. Goal Control claims an accuracy of plus or minus 5 millimeters. This is well below FIFA's minimum requirement of plus or minus 3 centimeters. Goal line technology may become a central part of the sport. But it is still the referee, not the computer, that makes the final call. For VOA Learning English, I'm Mario Ritter.
These people are playing a sport called Ultimate Frisbee in Denver, Colorado.
When you mention that you play Ultimate Frisbee, they either ask if it's disc golf or if it's the sport where you throw a frisbee to your dog. No, it's neither of those, unfortunately.
Scores like football, runs a lot like basketball, but kind of has positions and plays like soccer.
Ultimate Frisbee is basically kind of like soccer with a disc.
There are no referees or judges in Ultimate Frisbee.
Good game! With Ultimate, there's something called the spirit of the game.
It is a self-officiated sport, so everybody's responsible for settling their own disputes on the field.
You can cheer each other on. Even the other team congratulates you on good play, and that's the way it should be.
It's awesome. So I bring my little girls, and they love it because I think it teaches them that girls can do anything. They can compete with men. They can beat men, even better.
On this day, each team has both men and women.
This is a co-ed sport. Every team has to have 3 of each gender on the field at all times.
Age does not keep people from playing.
I'm a 50-year-old guy, and I could come out here and play and still be competitive against younger people, and I get a workout that I can't make myself do other ways.
I'm Milagros Ardeen.
Wow.
This is the VOA Special English Health Report. Tobacco companies are fighting efforts in the United States and Australia to make their products less appealing. In Washington, a federal judge recently blocked the Food and Drug Administration from requiring new warning labels on cigarette packs. Judge Richard Leon ruled in a case brought by 5 tobacco companies. The judge temporarily stopped a new federal rule to require large new warnings starting next September. These include color images, such as a dead body or diseased lungs. Simple text warnings now appear. Congress called for color images showing the dangers of smoking, similar to what Canada does. But the tobacco companies say the new requirements approved in June violate their free speech rights guaranteed by the Constitution. Judge Leon said the FDA could not require the new labels before a lawsuit against the government is decided. Some experts say the process could take years. The judge said he believes the cigarette makers are highly likely to win their case. He says the images are designed to appeal to emotion, rejecting government arguments that they are purely factual. He accused the government of trying to use the labels to promote an obvious anti-smoking agenda. The head of an anti-smoking group, the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, called the decision wrong on the science and wrong on the law. About 1/5 of American adults are smokers. The World Health Organization says tobacco kills nearly 6 million people worldwide each year. More than 600,000 of them are non-smokers who breathe other people's tobacco smoke. In Australia, tobacco companies want to stop what would be the world's most restrictive laws on cigarette advertising. Cigarettes could be sold only in plain olive green packages. Only the brand name and health warnings could appear. The new rule is to go into effect in December of 2012. Tobacco companies say the measure violates the Australian Constitution. They say it would unjustly reduce the value of their brand names and trademarks. Health Minister Nicola Roxon says the government is ready for a legal fight. She says the new rule will be a big win for families who have lost a loved one to tobacco-related illness. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. This is the VOA Special English Agriculture Report. Old properties and empty lots in cities and towns around the United States are finding new life as urban farms. Echo City Farms in Edmonston, Maryland, is located near shopping centers, car repair shops, and homes. The neighborhood is a working-class community. People do not have very much money, and they have limited access to fresh food in markets. Over the past 2 years, the farm has attracted volunteers from the community, like Marcy Clark. She schools her 4 children at home. On a recent day, she brought them to Echo City Farms for a lesson. Her children harvested rows of spinach, mustard greens, lettuce, Swiss chard, and carrots. It's important that the children understand the connection between the food that they eat, the soil, the air, the pollution, how all this is connected to their well-being, she says. Her son Alston agrees. You connect with the earth where your food comes from. You appreciate the food a little bit more. Margaret Morgan Hubbard started Echo City Farms. She thinks of it as a place where people can learn to live healthier lives. Our view is that what happens in a community influences the culture of that community. So our idea was growing food in a community and showing that you can have farms even in urban areas. Redefines what's possible in that area, in that community, and brings people together. Every piece of what we do here is a demonstration to show people everything about how to have a sustainable community, she says. That means not only farming food and raising chickens and bees, but improving the soil with compost made from food waste. 16 wooden bins are filled with worms. Their job is to eat the food waste and help make it into compost. Echo City Farms is an off-the-grid experimental operation. The farm gets its power not from the local electricity grid, but from the sun with solar panels. In winter, the greenhouses are heated using a geothermal system. Buried tubes pump air at underground temperatures, 13 degrees Celsius, into the structures. Vegetables can be grown all year. So once a week, all winter long, neighbors can come to the farm and pick up a share of the harvest. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. You can find 2 videos about Echo City Farms, including one about the composting worms, at voaspecialenglish.com. This is the VOA Special English Health Report. Uganda's latest outbreak of Ebola virus is the 4th in recent years. About 200 people died in the biggest outbreak in 2000. 37 people died in the last outbreak in 2007. Ebola is a hemorrhagic fever. It can lead to bleeding inside and outside the body. Symptoms of the disease include high fever, vomiting, and sometimes diarrhea. Other signs include weakness, muscle pain, headache, and sore throat. Ebola spreads through contact with blood or other body fluids of infected people. The virus is often deadly. There is no cure and no vaccine to prevent the disease. In July, President Yoweri Museveni urged Ugandans to report all suspected cases of Ebola. He also urged people to limit their physical contact, even shaking hands. Yoweri Museveni said, "We discourage the shaking of hands because that can cause contact through sweat, which can cause problems. And when people are sick in hospitals with symptoms which look like Ebola, they should be handled by medical workers wearing protective gear." President Museveni also warned people to let medical workers bury suspected Ebola victims. He said, "Please do not take on the job of burying him or her. Call the medical workers to be the ones to do it, because they are the ones who can do it safely." Most of the cases in the latest outbreak have been reported in western Uganda. A World Health Organization official said the first cases in July were mistaken for cholera. But Dennis Luomafa from Uganda's Ministry of Health says Uganda has improved its ability to identify cases of Ebola. He said Uganda is probably in the lead when it comes to dealing with hemorrhagic fevers in Africa. He said the diagnosis of the Ebola virus outbreak was done in Uganda. Dennis Luomafa said although the disease is also found in nearby countries, outbreaks are not always identified. He said, in other countries, especially in some of the neighboring countries, many times Ebola goes unrecognized, and other times it goes unreported. He said in some neighboring countries, Ebola destroys whole villages. He said it then disappears because there is nobody left to infect. Ebola fever is named after a river near the first recognized outbreak. That was in 1976 in Zaire, now the Democratic Republic of Congo. To read, listen, and learn English, go to voaspecialenglish.com. You can also find our captioned videos at the VOA Learning English channel on YouTube. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Presutti.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. Street children in Ethiopia say their biggest need is shelter. But a study shows that local non-governmental organizations and community groups rarely offer what the street children want. The international aid group Save the Children did the study. One of the researchers says the limited services provided by local NGOs do not match what the children see as their greatest needs. Save the Children talked with children living on the streets in 5 major cities, 3 regional towns, and 8 rural villages. The children discussed many subjects, including their needs, their health, and the risks they face. There are about 30,000 street children in Ethiopia. About 17,000 of them live in the capital, Addis Ababa. More than half of the children do not have access to shelter or enough food. They survive mostly on what they receive from shining shoes, selling small items to passers-by, and appealing to strangers for help. The street children face health threats. Research shows that about 30% are seriously sick, but most do not have any kind of treatment available. about 40% of the children may have been forced to have sex. The children believe that having shelter will reduce these kinds of risks. The child assistance group Goal Ethiopia used to provide shelter for street children, but it found that this discouraged the children from re-entering their own communities. The Ethiopian government is finishing work on a national social protection strategy. It will include new ways of providing support to families to reduce poverty and keep children off the streets. For VOA Learning English, I'm Mario Ritter.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Agriculture Report. Some people say eating hot chili peppers can help you breathe easier if you have a cold. Others believe that chilies give you more energy. All we know is that people have been growing chilies for centuries, and there are plenty of different kinds of chili peppers to choose from. Want to spice up your meals with homegrown chilies? They need a warm climate. If you plant the seeds outside when the weather is cool, place a glass over them. That will add warmth from the sun and protect them from wind. You can also start the seeds in your home or a greenhouse. If you plant chili peppers inside, fill an 8-centimeter pot with soil. The pot should have holes on the bottom so water can run out. Drop seeds over the surface of the container and cover with a thin layer of vermiculite. Vermiculite is a material that can hold air, water, and nutrients. Then cover the top of the pot with a see-through plastic bag. Hold the bag in place with a rubber band. Place the pot in a warm area. You should take off the bag when the chilies start growing. When the plants have reached about 2 centimeters high, place each one in its own pot. When the roots show through the holes on the bottom of the pot, transplant each seedling into a 12-centimeter pot. When the plants are 20 centimeters high, tie the plants to a stick placed in the pot to support them. When the chili peppers are 30 centimeters high, pull off the tops with your fingers. That should get new branches to grow. When the first flowers show, give the plants some potash fertilizer. When the weather is warm, put them into 5-liter pots and place them outside. Make sure they get lots of light and water. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. Name a website where you could find old pictures of camels carrying people to Mecca, Saudi Arabia, and books about ancient Aztecs in Mexico. It is all found in the World Digital Library. Its collection is available on the internet. The library has 8,000 items, from whole books to ancient writings to music and photographs.
There are 170 partners in 79 countries sending material to the World Digital Library. Partners include national or university libraries, museums, and other cultural organizations. The librarian of the United States Congress, James Billington, launched the WDL in 2009. John Van Oudenaren is the director of the library. He says Mr. Billington wanted it to include materials that are both interesting and important. Every item is explained in the 6 official languages of the United Nations: English, Arabic, French, Spanish, Chinese, Russian, and also Portuguese. Since 2009, 25 million people have visited the website from 250 places. The greatest number is from Spanish-speaking countries. John Van Oudenaren says users include schools, researchers, and anyone interested. He was especially happy to hear from one teacher in New York City. She said it was wonderful to have a website where people around the world could find interesting and important items. Musa Marawe is a researcher for the WDL from Sudan. He works with all the materials that are in Arabic. Musa Marawe believes the library provides tools for understanding, especially among Arabs, Muslims, and the United States. Anyone may search the World Digital Library by subject, time period, kind of document, or area of the world. The website is www.wdl.org. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. Name a website where you could find old pictures of camels carrying people to Mecca, Saudi Arabia, and books about ancient Aztecs in Mexico. It is all found in the World Digital Library. Its collection is available on the internet. The library has 8,000 items, from whole books to ancient writings to music and photographs. There are 170 partners in 79 countries sending material to the World Digital Library. Partners include national or university libraries, museums, and other cultural organizations. The librarian of the United States Congress, James Billington, launched the WDL in 2009. John Van Oudenaren is the director of the library. He says Mr. Billington wanted it to include materials that are both interesting and important. Every item is explained in the 6 official languages of the United Nations: English, Arabic, French, Spanish, Chinese, Russian, and also Portuguese. Since 2009, 25 million people have visited the website from 250 places. The greatest number is from Spanish-speaking countries. John Van Oudenaren says users include schools, researchers, and anyone interested. He was especially happy to hear from one teacher in New York City. She said it was wonderful to have a website where people around the world could find interesting and important items. Musa Marawe is a researcher for the WDL from Sudan. He works with all the materials that are in Arabic. Musa Murawe believes the library provides tools for understanding, especially among Arabs, Muslims, and the United States. Anyone may search the World Digital Library by subject, time period, kind of document, or area of the world. The website is www.wdl.org. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. The chief executive who presented the latest and coolest electronics to the world has stepped down. Steve Jobs announced his resignation as head of Apple in a letter. He wrote, "I have always said if there ever came a day when I could no longer meet my duties and expectations as Apple's CEO, I would be the first to let you know. Unfortunately, that day has come." Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak started Apple Computer in 1976. The company sold a new kind of electronic device, the personal computer. Apple Computer grew more quickly than anyone could have imagined. In 1985, however, Steve Jobs resigned after disputes with managers who had been brought in to direct business operations. He soon started his own software company, Next, and bought a computer animation studio. The Pixar movie studio would go on to create movies like Toy Story and Finding Nemo. They are two of the most successful animated films ever made. Apple struggled during the 1990s. Many products failed. The company began losing money and its stock price sank. In 1997, Apple bought Next and brought back Steve Jobs. Apple used software developed at Next to create the Mac OS computer operating system. The next year, Apple became profitable, and a series of highly successful products followed. In 2001, Apple released the iPod, a digital music player. The iPhone arrived in 2007. Apple has also been a leader in online marketing. The iTunes Music Store sells songs for download. The App Store sells applications for computers and mobile devices. Steve Jobs is closely linked with the success of Apple. Investors were scared when he announced he had an operation for pancreatic cancer in 2004. His decision to leave comes as Apple continues to release winning products. Apple sold over 4.5 million iPads in the first 3 months of this year. The company holds the largest share of the growing tablet computer market. On August 9th, Apple first passed ExxonMobil Corporation to become the most valuable publicly traded company in the world. Since then, the two companies have traded the lead. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. You can learn English and stay informed every day from your computer or mobile device at voaspecialenglish.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and iTunes at VOA Learning English.
Hi, I'm Avi Arditi from VOA Learning English. Nouns are names of things like people, places, and ideas, but not all nouns act the same in English. In fact, some nouns can be a little tricky to learn. Jane Mars from learnersdictionary.com is here to explain. Hi, Jane.
Hey, Avi. So yes, today I'd like to talk about a particular kind of noun that many learners find difficult. This noun type causes people to make mistakes. We're going to start just by looking at a list of 6 nouns. And I'm going to ask Avi if he could read them out loud. And those of you who are watching, see if you can figure out which one of these nouns is different from all of the others.
Okay, so the list...
Avi, go for it.
Okay, we've got architects, classes, libraries, mice, laws, and equipment.
Okay, so the question is, which one of these nouns is different from all of the others? And you might have noticed that all of these nouns, except for one, are plural. So let's take a look at them and see if we can figure out which one isn't plural.
Okay.
Architects, it's got an S at the end, definitely plural. Classes, it has an ES at the end, definitely plural. Libraries, got that S, plural. What about mice? No S at the end, but it's plural because mice is an irregular plural. The singular is mouse, and instead of adding an S or ES at the end, you change the letters inside the word to make it plural, but it is plural. Laws is a very regular word. It takes an S to make it plural. What about equipment? Equipment is not plural. So, Avi, could you make equipment plural for us?
Well, let's see. I guess I would say if I were talking about more than one piece of equipment, I would have to say 3 pieces of equipment or all of the equipment, right?
Can you say equipments?
Equipments? No.
No, you can't. Okay, so equipment is what we call a non-count noun, and it can never be plural. And it's these non-count nouns that often give learners trouble because they act a little bit differently than the other kind of nouns, which are count nouns. Count nouns are very regular. Non-count nouns are a little bit different. So what's different about non-count nouns? And Avi, if you could work on bringing up the next slide, we can take a look.
All right, there we go.
Avi's working on that. So the first thing we know.
Okay, the slide is up.
Thank you. Non-count nouns don't have plural forms. There is no such word as equipments. Don't say it. The next thing that's different about non-count nouns is they can't be used with plural verbs. So this informations are wrong is a wrong sentence, okay? You can't say that. You have information is a common noun that is non-count. And so if we want to talk about this idea, we have to say this information is wrong.
Or these pieces of information are wrong.
That's true.
Right.
The next thing that's different is that, okay, well, this is a little obvious. They're called non-count nouns. You can't count them. You can't say one homework. Homework is another very common non-count noun. You can't say 2 homeworks, 5 homeworks. You can't even say a homework because a means sort of the same thing as 1, and that's counting. And then finally, non-count nouns can't be used with the words many or few. So if you want to talk about how much homework you have, you can say, I have a lot of homework. I have so much homework. I have a little homework, I have some homework, but not many homework or few homework. Now, we've seen what's different about non-count nouns. The really tricky part is to know which nouns are non-count because it's not obvious. So I'm going to give you 3 tools that will help you figure out which nouns belong in this group. And Avi, if you could work on bringing up the next slide.
Okay.
We're going to see a picture of a dictionary entry. It's from a learner's dictionary. And if you look in a good learner's dictionary of English, you will find information about nouns that are non-count.
Okay,
So,
we've got the, well, it was up. Now let's get it up, pull it up again here. Give me just a second here. Okay, yeah, this slides up.
okay, so here is the entry for equipment in Merriam-Webster's Learner's Dictionary. This is our online dictionary. And right underneath the word equipment, and I've highlighted in red for you, it tells you non-count. Okay, so that's really easy. Look it up in a dictionary, and of course dictionaries don't have to be books anymore. You can find them on computers, you can download them onto your smartphones. So it's pretty easy to get to a dictionary. And now, Avi, if you can go to the next slide, I'm going to talk about another way of learning which words are non-count. And that way has to do with non-count nouns tend to come in categories.
Okay, the slide is up.
Here's a list of some common and useful categories of non-count nouns. So the first one is liquids. You see water, coffee, even gasoline. Think of gasoline as it pours, it's liquid. Shampoo, anything that pours, really, we could say. And then sort of the opposite of liquids is solids. Ice, steel, concrete, things that are like hard. Okay. Then what I call tiny bits, things that come in little tiny particles or specks, like sugar, flour, salt. You can also think of this category as something that you could make a pile of. Then there's spreads, and these are things that you can spread on food, mostly on food, actually. Yeah, maybe sunscreen, we could say. You could spread on your body. And it is a non-count noun. So the next one is weather. And you can see there a list of different kinds of weather. And these are all non-count nouns. And then finally, feelings. Okay, so this is a really good set of categories to keep in mind. However, there is an exception that we need to talk about. So, Avi, I'm going to need your help here.
Okay.
So I want you to take the word coffee, and I want you to take the phrase 2 coffees, and tell us a situation where you might use it. Give us an example.
Okay, well, let's say I invite you to a coffee shop, and we're sitting there, and the wait person comes over and says, what will you have? And I'd say, can we have 2 coffees, please?
Okay, exactly. Now, why? We've just gotten finished saying that coffee is a non-count noun, and here's Avi using it with the word 2 in plural. What's he doing? Well, when Avi says 2 coffees, what he really means is 2 cups of coffee, and cup is a container and it's countable. So once you're referring, even indirectly, to a container, now it can be count. So you can say 2 waters, 2 coffees. 2 shampoos would be a little bit different. That would mean like 2 times that you wash your hair. The other exception with non-count nouns is that if you're talking about different kinds of that noun, it can be count and it can be plural. So for example, Avi, I'm going to need your help again. Can you talk about, let's see, the word ketchup and make it plural, so we have ketchups, and put that in a sentence for us.
Okay, let's say I go to the grocery store and I've got to buy a bottle of ketchup. And I go to the aisle and I'm trying to decide because there's so many different kinds, and I'm thinking to myself, look at all of these ketchups.
Okay, exactly. Right? All right. So Avi there is talking about different kinds of ketchup. He's also actually talking about bottles, but even if they didn't come in bottles, he's talking about different kinds. So maybe he wants to buy 2 of them and serve 2 ketchups at dinner. So if it's more than one kind of a non-count noun, it can be plural. And if it's containers of a non-count noun, it can be plural. So those are the exceptions. All right, now, Avi, if you can work on bring up the next slide.
Okay, we've got it ready. Give me just a second here. Okay, it's up.
I'm going to talk about one more way of predicting which nouns are non-count. And here, what I'd like to suggest is that you memorize these words. These are among the most common non-count nouns. I've organized them into groups that seem to go together. And if you know these, you know a lot. You're going to do much better. So number one, furniture, luggage, and equipment. Those are all things that, even though you might have separate pieces of them, so you might have a couch and a bed and a nightstand, we still talk about it as one singular thing. We say, my furniture is old, no S. Same thing with luggage and equipment. The things in item number 2, those are all kind of, they kind of go together as information, knowledge.
Ideas.
Ideas, thank you. Number 3 is 2 words that have to do with money. Number 4 is words that have to do with getting dressed. Number 5 are words that have to do with school. Number 6, bread and pasta, 2 very common things to eat that are both non-count. And number 7 are things that belong to the fine arts, music, art. You could also put literature in this list.
And so if we say arts with an S at the end, we're talking collectively like different kinds of arts.
That's right. So a common expression, you might talk about the fine arts. And that means, just as you say, different kinds of artistic endeavors. Okay, now we're all set with the learning. Now we're going to do the practice. So, Avi, if you can bring up the next slide.
Okay.
And those of you who are watching, you should have a pen ready, or a pencil, and a piece of paper.
Okay.
Here's a quiz. And for this quiz, each item has one word underlined, and we want you to look at the sentence, and Avi's going to start reading them aloud.
Okay,
Just
good.
write down, is it count? You can write a C, or non-count. You can write NC. Go ahead, Avi.
Okay, well, I'm trying to get the slide up so everyone can see it. Let me give it one more click here. Okay, our quiz is up, and we start with the sentence, Georgette sleeps with 2 pillows. Is pillows count or non-count? Question 2. The furniture needs to be moved. Is furniture count or non-count? Third question. Our house is made of wood. Okay, Jen, you want to read the next few there?
4. I drink milk at breakfast. 5. She likes her coffee with 3 sugars. 6. There's going to be an exam tomorrow. 7. Your luggage has arrived.
Which is always good to hear if you're traveling.
Yes. And the last one, I'm looking for a gold necklace.
So is necklace count or non-count? So why don't you write down your answers there, and before we show you the answers, give you a few more seconds here. Okay, and so let me at least start the process of pulling up the answers here. Okay, we've got them. There you go. So as you can see on the screen there, we've got the answers. Pillows is a count, because you can say pillow or pillows with an S on the end. Count now. Furniture, as Jane said, non-count. Wood, non-count. Milk, non-count. Sugars, count, because with the S on the end.
Because it's packets of sugar.
Packets of sugar, right? You're talking about containers.
Or packets. Teaspoons of sugar.
And you want to read the answers to the next three there?
Sure. Exam is count. It's just a regular noun. Luggage, as we said, is non-count, even though you might have many pieces. We just call it luggage. And necklace is a regular count noun.
All right. And we've got Some noise in the background there, but okay. Well, so now, audience, how did you do? Did you understand the difference between count and non-count? And you could probably find more about this on the web, right? If people want to know more about count.
If you go to learnersdictionary.com into the Ask the Editor section, there is a post about count and non-count nouns where people can get more information.
Well, great. Well, thank you, Jane. Jane Mars is the editor of the Ask the Editor column at learnersdictionary.com. She joined us from Merriam-Webster in Springfield, Massachusetts. That's all for now. You can read, listen, and learn with our programs and activities at any time at learningenglish.voanews.com and at the VOA Learning English channel on YouTube. I'm Avi Arditi in Washington. Thanks for joining us.